One of the most important things to realize as a Tesla investor or someone thinking about investing in Tesla is that surprisingly, most Tesla investors are not actually invested in Tesla because of the robot division. Today, we'll watch an interview of Chris Camillo, a legendary investor who is best known for growing a $20,000 brokerage account into $60 million and is often featured as one of the top performing traders in the world, explaining why he thinks Tesla stock is such a massive opportunity right now. He points out exactly when he thinks big whale investors will catch on and make the stock jump. Got Larry Goldberg here with us. Larry, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you and I know Chris Camillo. We've spoken to him a few times. We know that he's very, very big on robotics, humanoid robotics specifically. He's been following the space. He's been waiting to see which companies he wants to invest in and when he wants to invest in. Let's watch this interview. And we'll see what he says about Tesla stock specifically. So I'll play it and then we'll pause it every once in a while. Get your feedback on it.
Investors are not invested in Tesla for the robot division. That blows my mind. It hasn't even like scratched the surface yet of Tesla investors.
People are seeing Elon Musk's timelines and that his inability to hit what he says and saying, okay, he's talking about robots. That's probably another 10 years from now. Let's not focus on that. He still hasn't even gotten us full self-driving that's like completely hands-off. I could text on the phone and work on my computer and look back at the passenger and like not have to keep my hand like on the wheel.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because that is the biggest like piece of information asymmetry ever. In that he cried wolf so many times
like
that
this one time.
Now that he actually is on to the biggest thing that's ever happened, no one believes him. I love it. Like, I think about it all the time. I'm like, I was saying this a year and a half ago. I was like, no one is going to believe Elon and his humanoids because he already lost his reputation when it comes to timelines on autonomous driving. So like, no one's going to believe him. And by the way, I'm not saying this is going to like happen overnight either, but it's not decades away.
I think people were disappointed when they saw his humanoid experience. And humanoids were serving people alcohol, and it was obviously like a comedian behind, like speaking with people.
Yeah, it was teleoperated. Yeah. Which, by the way, in the robot community, there's like nothing wrong with that. Teleoperation is the gold standard in how we train robots.
I'm going to pause it there because he's moved on to a second topic there. But what's your thinking about what he says about this information asymmetry right now? It's like the biggest one. People are not believing Elon when he says robotaxis here or that autonomy is here.
Look, I've spoken and posted about this before. You know, I had my good friend Gary Black saying, well, there's only 500,000 robots sold a year. And even if they double that market to another 500,000 at $20,000, it's really only, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you run those numbers and it's like a nothing burger. The robot market, the humanoid robot market, is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar market. It's going to be that as quickly as the robot companies, and probably a couple of dozen of them now, are able to actually deliver humanoid robots at scale and with intelligence. And it's, you know, getting them intelligence is a challenge when you think about the amount of memory and the amount of, you know, energy and all the issues of dexterity and walking and all. I mean, it's a mountain to climb, but there's strong evidence that these companies, and certainly the leaders in these companies, are climbing that mountain very rapidly. So whether or not you believe Elon's timeline or not, the rate at which they're coming on is, I mean, every day it's astonishing. So it boggles the mind to think, and let me tell you, if Elon were running if Elon had separated the robot company from Tesla and had allowed us private investors into that, what do you think the valuation of that company would be today? Because I'm looking at valuations of other robotic companies, and they're in the hundreds of billions. I mean, there's no question on my mind, that that company, that robotic company, is worth in the hundreds of billions today. And so anybody who doesn't ascribe some value, they're crazy. They're crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like at this point, it's no longer if it can happen. It's almost getting close to obvious that there's so many, many jobs that a bot today can already do.
Yeah.
It's now whether or not can you build and how many can you build, and then can you show me the business model? But you know, he said this is the biggest asymmetric information, you know, asymmetry, meaning that there's people who don't realize that this is happening, and then there's people who do, who are investing in Tesla, but there's so many people who are not even realizing that that's the biggest opportunity for Tesla. Do you agree with that? That is still there, or do you think that there's that Tesla investors already understand the bot opportunity, they're ascribing it properly? We are weekly seeing big whale investors, institutional investors, saying the word robots now, which they didn't do 6 months ago. Now they're saying the words robots. They still haven't added it into their 1 year price target. And then later in this interview, he'll say exactly when he thinks that will show up. But do you think that that's still like a huge opportunity?
Yes. Look, Herbert, just go back to what I said earlier. If you separate out the robot company, and you value it the way the valuations, I'm invested in a robot company, and I know that you are too. You take the valuations that those companies are getting and you apply them to the Tesla robot, the separate new company, this Elon Musk robot company. Its value would be about $60 a share in Tesla equivalent shares. So not valuing it today means that you are ignoring what is the true market, because the venture market is a very, very, very rich market. I mean, it's very dense, it's a very deep market. And so I think that giving it the same value as would be given by a startup firm, there's no doubt at all, in my opinion.
And each month that goes by, as we see the developments, these things should increase because the likelihood of it's going to happen is higher.
Yeah, the valuation on these robotics companies are really looking to the future with a very high level of discount for the uncertainty. So, we're going to see a sea change in those values. And that's why VCs, venture people, get involved in it. So it is stupidity. I mean, there are some forward-looking analysts who are beginning to count in the robots. That there are others that have done a separate study of them. But in my book, I look at this from a venture perspective, and I see huge value. I can't give it a number yet, but there's no doubt that if that company were independent and came out at a reasonable valuation that they set on it, I would invest.
Let's listen in to Chris some more.
Using artificial intelligence. So you teleoperate the robot, but every millisecond of that performance of how the robot interacts with the human, what they do, the sensors in its fingers, the way that it walks, the way that it moves its arms, the reactions, that's all training an artificial intelligence model so that in the future, you could have those exact robots in that exact setting without being teleoperated. The only way that they're going to learn how to do that on their own is either to go through a teleoperated training data set or put it in a simulated data set like they have in NVIDIA. NVIDIA has robotic simulated data sets, but like we have to train the robots. This is not an easy process, guys. Training robots to basically think like humans and act like humans and engage with the real world environment around them is not an easy thing. That's going to take years. But it will happen. It will happen. And eventually we'll have generalized autonomous robots that can do anything. You can drop 1,000 robots in a company and the foreman could be like, I need you to do these tasks. And they'll be like, okay, can you show us how to do them so we know exactly how to do them? Like, yeah, my crew will show you how to do them for an hour. And then I want you to do them with the other 20 trucks. And they'll just go to work. Like that's going to be like, you won't have to train them more than that.
How does Google's quantum chip?
Let's before he moves on. First of all, thank you to the Iced Coffee Hour for this interview with Chris Camillo. He's going to come on this show soon, second time. And so he, you know, they didn't believe it. They're an example of the general public who saw the 10/10 event, the October 10th event, and they saw these things and they were disappointed. It says, they were just teleoperated. Of course, a few days later, Tesla dropped a demo showing that that yes, it was teleoperated at the event, but because they did that, the bots can actually hand you chips, bags of chips, and bags of water autonomously. So they trained them that. What's what you're thinking about the answer that Chris gave?
Well, it's a good answer.
Yeah.
I think that I think it's only partial answer. I think that the bot will soon be able to, and he about said that they'll soon be able to do learning visually. I know that there is a bot company claiming that they're able to do that at this point, and claiming that they will be able to do it. I'm not sure exactly which, but there's no doubt that the process is working. We're working towards that process. You have to understand that to put an AI chip, AI4, for example, as it is now, into the bot is going to take a lot of power. So the balance is, how much AI do you put into the bot? How much AI do you put on the edge of the cloud, around near the bot, and so on and so forth? Those are issues that will help determine how much memory the bot will need and how much power it will use. So we have to be aware of that. But those are minor technical. They're product design issues or product, they're structural issues that will have to be decided. And a lot, and there will be different bots with different approaches. Mm-hmm. That, I mean, Chris is right. This is not a slam dunk, but it's as close to a slam dunk as you can get without being a slam dunk.
It's on its way. All right, let's listen in to some more of what he's saying here.
Is this a part of the equation where their chip could somehow power these like way faster and make them way smarter, or the two separate?
I think they're separate, but the concept of quantum computing is super interesting when we think about just generally how we're going to advance artificial intelligence over the next decade and a half. And the quicker we advance artificial intelligence and robots go hand in hand. Remember, this is called embodied AI. It's the embodiment of artificial intelligence. There's no doubt that quantum computing, once we start to commercialize it, will further advance artificial intelligence, not just to be generalized, but to be super artificial intelligence, right? So to have artificial intelligence that's actually smarter than humans. And when you combine that with autonomous robotics, you can really have wild things happen right on Earth. To me, what we can achieve with this is just wild. Yeah. So as an investor, remember something, guys. I have never seen a point in my lifetime where we have pulled forward revenue as investors as aggressively as the last 4 years since the pandemic. So what I mean by that is when we have industries emerging, as soon as we start to see that this industry is developing and it's going to happen, we start to look at the revenue it will produce, like with NVIDIA, and we don't have to wait 10 years for that company to grow into the valuation anymore. That valuation gets sucked forward, which is kind of interesting as an investor. So if you can catch something that's really large, it has a large total addressable market. Like physical labor is about 1/3 of global GDP, believe it or not. And some people think that once we have infinite physical labor, that physical labor could be larger than our GDP today in 15 or 20 years. So this is the largest industry on Earth, theoretically, not even theoretically, it is the largest industry on Earth. And if we crack the code, which we already have, it's just a matter of engineering, scaling this out now, Wall Street's going to catch on to it very quickly. And I think they're going to pull forward those revenue models of what does it look like when you're printing millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of robots, and they're being leased out at these rates because the value of the bot is that big. You're going to have companies that are massively larger than today's companies. That's why when I'm not like a Kathy Wood. I don't normally throw out big numbers like I threw out in January when I said Tesla could be a $10 trillion. Just their Optimus division could be $10 trillion by the end of 2030. I thought about that tweet thread a long time before I hit the button to send it out. I was like, no, I really believe this. I really believe that that is real. And at the time, Tesla was like a $400 billion company or 300, 200. It was like at its low. I really believe that. And I think fast forward a couple of years, the concept of having these $10 trillion companies is not going to be that spectacular anymore or that seem that obscene. But the TAM is huge. The total addressable market is gigantic.
Okay, so I think he made a very big point. By the way, he was on my show. He did say the $10 trillion number, and he was right at the time. Tesla was such a low value. Now it's at $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion. We've got Apple and NVIDIA at $4 trillion. It's not crazy anymore to say 10 trillion. But the point being, robots is the largest TAM that's ever out there. Any market, any product with the largest TAM out there. And you're seeing daily progress over this. If you think that it's impossible for a robot to do some labor, then okay, that's your opinion. But at this point, it seems to be, it's like on its way. You can't stop AI development. You can't stop the bot development. You're seeing it already. It's already being used, by the way, in many factories, many use cases. There are already bots out there doing this, humanoid bots. Anyways, and then so he's saying it's going to be brought forward. So it's like, it feels like, and I subscribe to this. I think that at some point the stock will skyrocket. All robotic companies' stocks will skyrocket we're so close now to that point. We don't need to wait till you have 1 million bots out there getting me all that revenue, and then you say maybe the first time you have that first revenue point. But what's your opinion on this?
I think that we'll see the emergence of 4 or 5 robotic companies, and the others will struggle. And the 4 or 5, I'm certain Tesla will be one of them. And I think we'll also see the emergence of one dominant Chinese robot company. And that company will probably get the largest volume of bots, not necessarily the largest amount of money, but the largest volume of bots. I'm pretty sure that the Western nations, such as they're now constituted, will probably not allow Chinese bots in. And there will be, these 4 or 5 successful bot companies, and they will all be multi-trillion-dollar companies. Now, once we see a large component of the labor that's done daily by human beings being replaced by bots, we're in the 5th industrial revolution. And that means that we're going to see the global expansion of GDP such as we've never seen before, an expansion such as never been seen before in our history. It's going to change the world in ways that it's really difficult to imagine. And it's going to lead to social problems and political problems, but it's going to improve everybody's quality of life. Everybody in the world's quality of life. So it's going to be a really interesting eras coming forward, and it's almost unpredictable what will eventually happen here. So
can you speak to this idea that that that's the largest TAM in the world, and I like the way you explained that very well, right? Exactly how many companies and Chinese and who's going to succeed and not, all that. But this idea that the unique thing about the bot, the humanoid bot form factor specifically, is as soon as they come off the production line, they come out and they're built, and then you put an AI brain in them, they could be used to build other bots. They could turn around and say, build. So like the company that is able to build the most bots theoretically could, unless you disagree, could be used. The more bots you make, the more those bots could help you make more bots, and then it becomes almost uncatchable for others to do it. Is that a possibility, or what's your estimate of how much a bot is going to be made by humanoid bots versus it just 100% of it is just done by industrial robots?
Makes no difference. The actual cost of manufacture of the bot is going to be very close to its component parts in terms of the bill of material cost and bill of material value. The real value in the robot is going to be the software and the training. And so whether the bot costs $10,000 in parts and labor or $12,000 in parts and labor, it's
going to be amortized. What matters is to get them to work. So you're saying that it doesn't matter if more humanoid bots can actually make more humanoid bots at the end of the day. Even if you're able to build a bot for like 50% cheaper than other bot makers, the margin is so high, the yearly amount of money you can use for them is so high.
Not necessarily. If the hand-built bot, the human-built bot, or manual-built bot, or whatever you want to call it, production line, if the conventional production line bot is dramatically cleverer than your bot, and even if your bot is manufactured for dramatically less, it's not going to be as successful as the much more intelligent bot. So all I'm trying to say is that the cost of manufacture is not the issue.
Okay.
And look, the first bots that come out off the production line are going to be costing the manufacturer a couple of $100,000 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they're going to be bought at less than the cost of, at more than the cost of manufacture is because of the software that they have on board
what
and
they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
So
and
the
I
real
think
race,
it's always going to pertain.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. So the real race you're saying is, yes, more bots make the difference, but the other bit is that more bots actually does help with the software, right? More vision data, more AI, better training. So the more bots does matter, but the cost of making the bots, yes, it's going to be useful, but it's not the differentiator. Okay.
Right. And it's not clear that the more bots, the more information, because it just depends on the efficiency of learning, the efficiency of collecting the data. A product is not the physical hardware, and a product is not machine, is not the physical hardware, and it's not the software. It's the combination of both, and it's how the product is designed to operate in the real world and with people. And so the cleverer the product, the better the product, the better the more successful it's going to be.
Going back to Chris Camillo. So Chris Camillo made a name for himself because he's considered to be one of the best investors out there because he knows.
He's incredible. I think Chris is one of our geniuses.
Yeah. And what he does is he's found ways to do timing correctly, because at one point it was all about social engineering. He would follow social media and he would say, he called it social arbitrage when he starts seeing a certain group of people talking about something. So, this is before everybody started doing it with social media. So he's saying, he correctly, I believe you do, that human or robots is a massive investment opportunity. Now he's very risk tolerant, and he's doing option plays, right? He'll not only invest at a certain time, but he's going to do option plays. Well, I'm not saying we should do that at all, but what do you think about his timing? So he's recognized this as a big opportunity. When do you think the right timing is to invest in a human or robot company, or Tesla specifically, because of human robots?
If Chris tells you the timing is now, who am I to argue with him? I mean, he is proven to be. I have very high regard for Chris, and if he says this is the time, I'm going to take that advice. Now, you're free to have a better advisor and so on and so forth. I can't advise other people, but for me, if he tells me now's the time, I'm going to follow his lead. He's got a sense of the market. He's got a sense of the market, and he's got a sense of where things are going. He knows to skate to where the puck is going, and he knows where that puck is going. It's an amazing, amazing investor.
So you and I, we both have said clearly we can't time the market, but we're going to just get in early. And yes, we might be too early, but we don't know what's going to happen. So you just wait it out if you're a long-term investor. What do you expect to happen? So let's say the stock right now, Tesla, it's around the, it's sitting here around the, where are we anyways? I haven't looked at it. Well, where are we? We're now at the $354 mark. And he's saying that the bot opportunity is still not, most Tesla investors are not invested in Tesla because of the bot opportunity. That's his thing that he thinks surprising. When do you think that happens?
I think Tesla's going to go up, and I think it's going to go up over time.
Yeah, okay. It's not like this one moment per se. Yeah. Over time, more and more people will realize the opportunities there.
I'm prepared to say this. With Tesla, there are moments in time where people realize what's happening. And then between those moments, there's this loss of faith and loss of confidence.
Yeah.
And so you're always going to see this jump, and it's almost impossible to predict the date and the time of the jump.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why for me, I don't know about anybody else. I just accumulate. I've been buying quite significantly, over the year, and I just don't look to sell the position that I acquire, because I'm not prepared to find myself at the bottom end of that big jump, which comes unpredictably.
No. Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, this is interesting to hear that, the broad opportunities is one of the biggest, information disparity that's out there. And I think he's right. Even now, so we'll see how this plays out. But it is, because it's the largest TAM in the world, I think it's something people should really think about and consider. It's bigger than energy. It's bigger than cars or pharmaceuticals or, it's the largest thing in the world. So
yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you very much, Larry. Follow him on his X account at Tesla Larry. Thanks very much. Bye, everybody. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.